Hi, everybody, and welcome to our continuing lecture series sponsored by the Graduate and Undergraduate Art Department and the Center for New Art at William Patterson University. Today, I'm really pleased to introduce Cliff Baldwin. Cliff will be here for 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, working on a project with the graduate assistants and other students in the sculpture and digital media class. He'll talk about it probably a little bit today. The project's called House of Fub, and we're going to help him make that work. And he's also going to do a bit of a performance around it. We don't have a date for that performance yet. We'll get it to you soon. I wanted to tell you a little bit about Cliff and how I know him, because as you look around the room in here and you see your friends and colleagues and compatriots, I want you to know that you'll continue to know them throughout your life. Cliff and I first met at the Kansas City Art Institute. That's about 8 years ago, 10 maybe. I don't know, 10, 8, something like that. 8, yeah. I remember Cliff really distinctly from the very first I met him. He was extremely interested in Dada, as many other people in that environment were at that time. It was the 70s. There was a lot of punk going on. There was a lot of, it was kind of an anarchistic time. Whenever I talk about it, I go a little misty in my eyes because I loved it so much, because there were no rules. The rules were there to be made by us, and we abused them to the fullest extent possible. And I remember Cliff every Thursday night we had a performance night. And Cliff one day Cliff said, "Tonight's my performance, please enter this bus." And he kidnapped all of us. And he took us down to the Bottoms in Kansas City. And he played the saxophone on a train track in the middle of the Bottoms. And I was like, I couldn't believe that I'd gotten in the car and that he had waylaid me, taken me away. But at the same time, I've also followed Cliff for years. He's done amazing things. He published a magazine called AQUI. You'll hear about it today. And he was doing that in Brooklyn, and that was when I first moved to New York, and he first moved to New York. And we see each other, we collaborate and combine and talk, and we were part of each other's lives. And then as time has gone on, Cliff, I've always admired Cliff because he and his wife, Marta, have created this company called Lampa, which is a design company that creates lamps and sells them in the design industry. He's going to talk a little bit about it today. So he's an artist who's a polymorph. He does performance, he does music, he does print, he does language, he does all these different things. And at the same time, he's also managed to craft a way to make a living in the arts through this company, Lampa, which is, you're going to see beautiful design and kind of amazing. Marta, his wife, his partner, is also an amazing designer and artist. And, so I'm really pleased to be able to bring Cliff here and let him talk a little bit about his practice. So please join me in welcoming Cliff Baldwin.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael. It's great to see you all. It's great to be here and to have this opportunity. It's terrific to finally come and see the students here. I came once before and saw what Michael was doing a couple of years ago or something like that, and it's nice to be back and to experience it with all the students. So I call this talk. Forget it. Did you get that? Thank you. I'll start with AQUI, as Michael mentioned. AQUI is the magazine that two collaborators and I worked on starting in 1983, 84. It was a large format silkscreen piece that we would go and work with individual artists or groups of artists, artist groups, and have them submit an image. It was a 4 by 6 foot piece. You can see it on the wall. We mounted it on the street, and it was usually a 2-color silkscreen, in some cases 3-color, but it was silkscreen downtown by the same guy who was screening Warhol's prints. Coincidentally, and he did it for an amazing price, and he was interested in doing the work with us, and we would print up 200 issues of each one, go out on the street, paste them up, and we worked with various people you might already know. Davi Det Hompson on the left, Barbara Kruger on the right. There it is on the street. That is Lafayette Street. Looked pretty grimy then, but yeah. Here we are at night. This is one of my partners. Here we are at night posting. Of course, you meet all kinds of people in the city when you're out doing things like this. And this man was happy to provide percussion while we were pasting. That was a piece in the background there that I did. We did work with Gilbert and George. It was the first of their shitted pieces. They did a lot more shit later on, but this is the first one in 1985. And God Gun, which is, God Gun, you can still, works today. That's a Les Levine piece. And sure enough, these things ended up framed in places later on. And
That's general idea, right?
that was general idea, yeah.
General idea
On the left.
Right.
Yes. And that's me on the right.
Flag on.
Yeah. We later started working as an artist group and calling ourselves AQUI. And it sort of morphed into another thing. We got away from publishing other people's work and just worked on our own stuff. So this is a letterpress piece that we did for a show that we had in Richmond, Virginia. And it was an edition of maybe 100 pieces each. And it was, these are about this big, and they're wood letterpress. So if you know what wood letterpress is, you have a big press and actual wood letters that print the thing. And so we'd run this, the press for this, making these posters is like as big as this screen. It was huge, it was as big as a car. And at some point, the press was trashed and thrown out in the parking lot. It's no longer in existence. So these wood letterpress things are pretty rare now these days. So this was a fun project. We dealt with a lot of artists on this and did our own pieces. And this traveled, this show traveled. This is my partner for a few years, Davi Det Hompson. He was a Fluxus artist. He started doing Fluxus around 62 and continued into the 70s, and then was teaching in Kansas City, and Michael knew him. And we did some work together as Baldwin+Hompson, as a collaborative called Baldwin+Hompson. We get the kids riled up, you know, sometimes. And then we just stick our name on the picture. That was easy. These are some cast plaques that we did. These are aluminum, cast in Brooklyn at the time. And we used a kind of language that was happy language, funny language. We were interested in language, and we were interested in a positive approach, not a negative or critical approach. So it was always happy words, silly words, goofy words. But when you cast it in metal, it looks tough, you know. It's nice. And so these are pre 3D printing and pre all that. We made the positives from wood. We cut them in wood, and then we cast them off the wood in sand molds. These guys who were doing casting down on 4th Avenue in Brooklyn. So silly words. And here's how they sat on the floor. Named markers. We called them markers. So we made a long list of words that were active words like jump, sit, you know, or jump, I should say, hop, skip, goof, quack, you know, stuff like that. And usually very short words, quick and to the point. Happy stuff like that. Hoot is another one. Bop, tug, sip, wag. These are hand fans that we made that you could hold in your hand like the fans you have in church, you know. Here's some multiples that we did. We did a newspaper called Plug, which was used at an art fair. And then we did shirts that say Gush, embroidered shirts. Hum and Does were more of the aluminum markers. And we did things called affirmation marches, where we'd get people to hold the fans and walk down the street. These are people from Franklin Furnace, which was an alternative space in the city, which I think is only online at this point, is only in existence online. It's early 90s. This is a rubber book. This book is a very big, heavy book. It's about this big, just a spray-painted bolted together. Some nice office chairs. You've done office chairs, right? These are a few things that we did for a show called Words, W-R-D-Z. And if you've ever silkscreened on pizza boxes, you know how much fun that can be. It's good stuff. Buck Mipple, Dunk, Fudder, Waffle Boof Lorek. You know those words. Those are familiar words, I'm sure. Addle, 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 addle. So meanwhile, I was sort of doing my own stuff in addition to this collaborative work. And this is a piece called Shh that I did down by the Brooklyn Bridge before Dumbo was so fancy. There was a park down there. Well, Fulton Ferry Park was a place where we could do sculptures once a year, a couple times a year, whatever it was. And I did Shh. And I made a film called Shh too, and I'll just show you that. Feel free to text, like I said. Or, and that is Shh. This is kind of a rough picture, but this is another piece in that Fulton Ferry Park in Brooklyn. And there's the World Trade Center. Remember them? Wow. Here's a piece from Mexico City called Grita Conmigo, which means shout with me. Sort of in an invitational piece. And this was during the time when the Zocalo, this main square, was filled with all these people from the south. What were they called? I forget those guys. The farmers, they were all upset. Zapatas, that's right. It was during that time, and they were living there in the square. They had camped out there, and so it was, this shout with me was all about that. It was this camaraderie thing, and a voice. And by the way, this is a 16th century cathedral that's sinking into the earth inside. It's kind of going like this. It's sinking inside. It's a beautiful place. Big, heavy, stones and made of volcanic stone. Beautiful. Right down in the center of Mexico City. Very nice. These are some placards. Come on. For an election, presidential election. I want to say 2004, maybe. This is nuts. This is a piece I did for Governor's Island, a show we did on Governor's Island. And I don't know, do you know about Governor's Island? It's fairly close here, right? So Governor's Island was called Nutant Island. Did you know that?
What's it called?
Nutant, because the Indians used to grow walnuts there, and the Dutch bought it from the Indians for a couple of screws and a drill bit or something like that. And they bought the whole island for that. And so the nuts were the thing that kind of started the whole ball rolling, got everyone excited, and et cetera, et cetera. You know the history of the island. The Smothers brothers were born there. You know that. That's common knowledge. And so I made this car. It was all about nuts and all the different information about nuts having to do with Governor's Island. And of course, you can't go wrong with a minivan when you've got a minivan at your disposal. This is a piece for an art fair in Sweden, also an election year. This was, I think this was the Obama election year, 2008, I believe. Now, new. In Swedish, the word now is new, which is interesting. So it's a small little display of group excitement here. These are some prints that I've done called the hexagonals. And I love a four-letter word just like anyone else does. So there's great four-letter words you can use like loaf and clol and foter and toter and yachts and riff and nifa, and all these are terrific, and they make me happy, and I love the color too. The printer that I have makes this juicy color, beautiful color. So I print out these nice prints, and in various configurations, just color studies and words, just the color, the word, the shape, just simple reductions like that. They excite me. These are fun. Plap, clock, knock, foop, foss, sauce. You can go ahead, say them, you know. Feel free.
Lope.
Yeah, exactly. Kalk, lute, plas, lope. Exactly. You know, you can pixa, gixa, cackle, doos. Yeah, see? See, it's fun as a group to say them together, isn't it? See, that's fun. That's good. So now we're getting somewhere. This is a musical instrument called the Aquabug Orchestrion that I made for an installation up at a gallery in New England. It played back a bunch of music in a surround system, 6-channel surround, so you could press the button on the bottom, hit the little marshmallow, and it would play a different song and surround you in the sound of these funny sounds and beautiful music. Here's a quick sped up version of that. Okay. That was compressed to make it easier. Okay. This is a new group of, or this is a later group of images that I came up with. This is about 2008 again, 2007, 2006, 2007. This is a series I call Lovebirds. It's all about sending messages of love on drones, of course. So the idea is, let's not use the drones with missiles. Let's, attach messages of love and drop leaflets or something like that. So I would find different drones, and we would say use the Polish word buzi, which is kiss, and the idea was, you drop some leaflets that way. And this is a beautiful drone. This one's a Boeing, by the way. It's a pretty one. Besos. And I understand this one is the one that they're using for fighting fires now. So that's kind of nice. But repurposing the drone was my thought back then. And this is the Iranian one that they found. So we have some Persian text on the front that says kisses. And this is another Boeing, I believe. Kus and smack. So here's a print. I have other prints. I didn't bring any other print shots, but there's one quick one. This is a video piece called I Love Richmond and Richmond Loves Me. And basically it's on the side of a building. My head comes up. And I say, I love you, kind of a thing. And I'm underwater in the bubbles, kind of like a waterboarding scene. And, sort of on a lighter note, though, not so awful. This was for the InLight Festival in Richmond in 2010, I believe. And this is a piece from the InLight Festival in 2012. This is called The Language of Light. And this is a word piece projected with music as well. And I'll show you an example of that. couple of people wandered over to see it. These are some new prints that I've been making that are Esperanto. Does anyone know about Esperanto? No? Does anyone know about Esperanto? Mike, you know about Esperanto? Really? Esperanto is that utopian language that's a sort of a blend of all languages. And it's sort of a mix of Portuguese and Spanish and English and everything. And it was a utopian language that everyone was going to be able to speak all over the world and replace English, and it would not be necessary. And it was kind of an interesting language. So I'm starting to make some prints. These are digital woodcuts that I've been making on my press in my studio. And Cho yes means everything yes, and yes vi means yes you. But the word yes, J-E-S, I thought that was nice. And that's some Esperanto. Here's some other Esperanto prints. Just variations on that. These are about 2 by 3 feet each. This is a book that I produced in 2014 called Everything. And it came with a chair and a CD, as I spoke to the class yesterday about. And it's an edition of 100. It's a 2-sided book. It unfolds, kind of like a newspaper. It's in beautiful color. It's really nice to touch. And you get a CD with it and a chair, so you can sit down and read it too. So it's kind of a whole package. I have a picture of I have a little movie of my daughter. Now let's talk about Lampa. Lampa is the company that my wife and I have. We started in Brooklyn in 1991, and she had some ideas for doing some lighting, and I was helping, and it sort of snowballed into this business. And now we're doing all kinds of things. We have about 30 different products that we do on a normal basis. People call. We make it to order. We don't stock anything. We make everything to order. So there's very little overhead. We make it all in our studio. We have certain people making things for us. They bring things to us, different parts. We make it all in our studio in New York. And we ship it from there all over the country. This is a new product. This is called a ribbon LED lamp. This is a piece called the Cloud Mesa. This is a nice piece. This is at a lake house nearby in New York. This is Madison, Wisconsin Public Library, a new public library where they did this lower level with all these Cloud Mesa lights of ours. This is a kids section, kind of a cool library. This is an office with some things we call crunch pendants. These are LED powder-coated crunched aluminum as a pendant. And we hand make these, we just hand crunch them. And here's some white ones, crunches at an Under Armour store in Soho that we did a couple years ago. And we got our stuff on the CBS set with Charlie Rose, if you can believe that. There's some drums up there. It's either drums at the back and on the left and on the right. They put them on the set, so that was nice. That was a fun thing to do. So Lampa has been good. It's been a good business for us. It's sustained us when we don't have art shows happening, when we're not exhibiting. We're able to do our own design work and market that and make that work. It's been a good experience. This is our headquarters, our world headquarters. So I should explain to you, I live in Aquebogue, New York, which is on the east end of Long Island. And we're on the North Fork. The North Fork is sort of the anti-Hamptons. You know, Long Island is like this. And you've got the Hamptons down here, and you've got the North Fork up here. And the North Fork back around, like say 1998, I'd say 2000 had about 14,000 acres of farmland, and the South Fork had maybe 2,000 acres. So the majority of the farmland was on the North Fork, and still is. Riverhead is a big farming community, and so when we bought the barn, and this is a barn built in 1908, it was just an empty shell, and no one really wanted it. So we took it and we renovated it. We live upstairs. We work downstairs in the studio. And the neighborhood is an interesting neighborhood because there's wineries across the street and there's a farm stand down the road. And it's very rural, and it's only about 70 miles east of New York. Have you guys come out there at all? Yeah? So it's nice. You should come out. It's fun. In fact, there's a bunch of new breweries. You'd like those. Those are fun. And there's a new cider place that's really good right up the road for me. Anyway, I want to show you my neighborhood a little bit. So my neighborhood is an interesting place. The area that I'm in on Main Road, I'm right on Main Road. It's the main artery all the way out to Orient Point. And the homes are quite old. These are my neighbors. I'm sort of back here, if you can see my house back here, back off the road. My neighbors' houses this is Peter Lucas's house, and this is Alan's house. Peter's house is a 1721 house, I think, 1721. It's an 18th century house. This one's pretty old too. This one's 19th century, like early 1840s, something like that, farmhouse. So there's all these farmhouses along the road, and they're disappearing. It's an interesting thing. In fact, they tore one down this morning. I'm on my way over here. They tore down another farmhouse right up the road from me. It's so sad, these beautiful old farmhouses. So I've been sort of embarking on this new sculpture project. We've done some things where we've renovated small buildings nearby. This is a thing called the Witch's Hat. This is an old farm stand that someone put together back in the 20s, excuse me, in the 20s. We renovated it last year, got some people to donate labor and materials, and we oversaw the renovation of that. So that's a nice thing. That's a good thing that's happening. But houses like this is a farmhouse, an 1827 farmhouse that this year was torn down because the farmer, the owner, couldn't figure out a way to make it work. Couldn't make it work economically for themselves. They just decided, no, I'm getting rid of it. It's too old. I can't deal with it. And they had no incentives to do anything with it. They had no incentives to, no one was saying, we'll give you tax breaks on this to renovate it and keep it, because we need these things in the fabric of our community. We need our community to stay vibrant and to be historic at the same time. They can't see that. They need money to do things, and there are no incentives. So we're trying to provide incentives. Some friends of mine and I have gotten together, and we've done this, what I think is a giant sculpture project. It's a 5.5 mile long historic district that gives people options as far as preserving their homes, preserving their buildings, their commercial buildings and their residential. So what we did was we did a study of about 300 houses on this road, 300 houses and commercial buildings. And 5.5 miles long, like I said. What you have to do when you do a historic district, a national historic district, you have to gather all the information about the house, age, who's the owner, the size of it, details like what it's made of, what it was used for, all these various details. And then you take that and you submit it to New York State. And New York State takes that information as a package, and they look and they say, yes, this looks like a good thing. This is a good historic district, and we could make a nice National Register historic district on a national scale. And they take that whole study that you've done and they take it to the feds. And the feds say, okay, this is good. And if anyone wants to be in this district, they can. And if they want to renovate their house, they can get a 20% tax break on their federal taxes. Or they can get a 40% tax break if they have a business. So anyone who's a farmer who's got a farm and they want to change their farm stand, or they want to put a new roof on their barn, they get a 40% break on the cost of a new roof, for instance. Now, in National Register Historic Districts, you can always tear your house down. You can paint it purple, you can paint it plaid, you can do whatever you want. You can rip it down anytime you like, but you can always have that option of renovating it and using the tax benefits. So this, for me, is a project that is complete now. My neighbors were not so happy about it because they thought everyone wants to control what we're doing. They had this fear of government, and this seemed like a project that government was involved in too much, and so they said no. But it's a project that's going to happen eventually, and it's going to do good things for the community. And so this is a kind of a project, this is a kind of sculpture project for me that's very exciting right now, to be able to do something on this scale. And that's an interesting thing for me. And it's good for the community. There's really no downside to these kinds of things. And I'm sure you guys will all do projects like this. You're of this mindset, I'm sure. You've got these kinds of ideas, and it's a good time to do these things because it's easy to communicate with people, get the word out, organize locally, do those kinds of things. It's something I'm sure you'll all be involved in. So I'm going to play you a quick movie. This movie is from my Language of Light. This is one of the ones from that one group that had the big words on the side of the building, blink. This is another piece from that. And I'll leave it at that. These are some time lapses that I put together for this, and I won't say anything more. I'll just let this run. Okay, anyone got any questions? Any questions? Can I do that? Yeah.
Regarding the video or the entire presentation?
Anything.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
Is this good, Michael? Questions are okay?
Yeah, questions are great.
Okay.
Do we have a microphone?
Let's sort of recording. In your earlier work, you obviously use like a lot of type, but like the typeface that you used was like repetitive. I feel like throughout the works, was that like important to you that you used that, and like if so, why?
It's one that I've used. It's one that I made myself, so I use it a lot. I don't see a reason why not. I can't think of another reason. I've tried other ones. This one's more fun for me, so it's an old, very old typeface, and I like to throw it into new context. That's all. All right, well, thanks. It's been great. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Wait.
What inspired you to do all this? Like, what was it like in the beginning with the text, with everything?
What was it like in the beginning? What was it like in the beginning?
Like, were you inspired to do this in your 20s, or was it in your 30s?
20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. It's sad, isn't it? Yeah, it's sick. I know. I know it's a sick thing, really. It's a sickness, but whatever, what can you do? You're stuck.
Here we go.
I think this guy come over there for a second.
Oh.
So they have good audio later.
You gonna do his tune? Are you gonna sing?
No, I'm not gonna sing.
Oh.
Thank you very much. I don't necessarily know how to frame my question, but like listen to you yesterday and listen to you today.
Yes.
Are you treating your life like a work of art that you're working on?
Oh, I don't think of it that way, really.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not sure, but I don't think of it that way.
The historical district is a work of art, and the
I
barn is a headquarters. Headquarters for your studio or headquarters for your life, which is a project. Which
It's
is
all
progress.
the same to me. It's all the same.
Well, you're carryover from like the Fluxus generation of making artwork, right? I feel like that bleeds into what you're doing a lot now still.
Yeah.
Where you don't.
When you have a house like that, you feel like it's a sculpture. When you're a sculptor and you start working on your house, you feel like, wow, this is a great giant piece I'm working on. It's fun like that. You can do whatever you want. You can paint it orange. Whatever you like.
Even with the witch's hat.
Yes, the witch's hat.
Okay, I have a follow up to this.
Okay.
What's happening with the witch's hat now?
The witch's hat is sitting, and the veterinarian who owns it is not doing much with it. But it's at least it's not falling over.
So
it's not rotting.
Sell vegetables there.
You could go and you could set up. You talk to the vet and
drawings.
Absolutely. Good things should happen there. I don't know what they should be, but good things should happen.
So are
there.
you just setting up the machinery for something to happen?
Sure.
Sure. All right.
Why not?
That's a good
I mean,
answer.
no, really. When things like this disappear, then they're gone forever, and they're stupid things, really. I mean, when someone puts up a farm stand, it's not that big a deal, really. How many farm stands have disappeared?
I mean, beyond the
millions.
farm stands. I mean, hand fans and posters
Oh.
and farm stands and buildings and
What about
historical districts. You're doing and then letting it live and become something else.
Oh.
Is that? You don't really have a goal, do you? You just.
I'm just I'm churning it out.
Just making.
I am making. It's an art of inclusion. As I made a little list here. I enjoy spending time with artists. I like an art that's a wonderful experience. An art that's positive in nature, that makes interesting communities. Art makes interesting communities, and I think
Okay, last question.
we can all do that.
Last question for me.
Okay.
What is the piece of art that you've made that you hate the most?
The one I hate?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
We didn't really see it, did we?
No, you haven't seen the one I hated. I don't know. I don't know. You haven't seen the one I really, really hate.
Think on it.
Yeah, all right. I'll work on that.
Wait, did you have a couple of other things on your list?
I like an art that encourages rather than discourages. I think I kind of said that. And I look forward to working with all of you, on art projects. I think I'm into collaboration, so I'm interested in that. And I'm interested in working with anyone and everyone on projects. Art, I like the art for all idea, that's a good idea. Ding, ding. So, another question. The hockey player.
You
Huck a
said
question?
that you make all of the lamps to order, right?
Yes, sir.
How long's like the standard turnaround?
4 to 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks?
Yes, sir.
And do you ever have to do like orders on demand? Like for the CBS station, did you have to make them quicker or?
We really generally stick to 4 to 6 weeks. People think that's okay. People don't have a problem with that lead time. But lead time, I'll tell you, lead time is an interesting question because you know who's taken all our business is the Chinese. And the Chinese manufacturers take 8 to 10 or 10 to 12 weeks to get things on a boat over here. So if you can beat the Chinese, you're okay. You're in better shape, you know?
And
No joke. It's no joke. We're up against the Chinese here, folks.
and why?
And they are mean manufacturers. They will churn that stuff out and they will get it over here and people will buy it and it is dirt cheap. So watch out, you know, they'll kick your ass.
And why exactly do you not
Excuse
make
me?
them? Why exactly do you not make them in the meantime? Like why do you do it to order, and not?
And not keep inventory?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
you can't afford to.
Oh, okay.
We can't afford to.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm
to
sure.
stock, we do 30 different things. You can look at our website, lampa.com. You can see all the different things we do. We do stock a few parts, you know, we stock a few items and just have them so that they're fairly easy to do. So it's not entirely that way. Like, for instance, we do a lot of, you know, on that cloud Mesa pendant, it's a funny shape. So we have to have that funny shape made. So we have a guy make like 20 for us every once in a while, like every month or two. So we have some of those in stock. So it's not entirely, you know, we have nothing.
Yeah.
We do have some things, and we do stock a lot of parts, and then we can throw things together fairly quickly.
Are each of the cloud ones and the cluster ones unique? Like, are they unique shapes or are they all?
No,
the same?
they're all the same. Yeah, they're all the same. Yeah, we don't do unique stuff necessarily. It's all the same design. Yes, the Chinese lady.
Wait, Mike.
Oh, you didn't hear about? Yeah, she needs the mic. Yeah, give her the mic.
Well, just following up that you don't have copyrights for those designs. To my understanding, you design all this.
We do design,
right?
absolutely. I guess no one understood. There is no copyright on furniture and lighting in the U.S. Did you know that?
No, I
Yeah,
didn't.
that's why you can get ripped off so severely.
I see.
Yeah. No, that's okay. There's no copyright. So be careful if you guys are making photos or videos, you can copyright them. That's great. That's a great question. That's an excellent question. You can copyright your photos, your videos, your music, but try and make furniture and copyright it. Good luck with that.
Professor Reese, you should tell Professor Lazarus about that.
Yeah.
It's a serious issue, and we were ripped off by Pottery Barn a few times, and that's not fun, but it happens. What you do is you just make it faster than the one who's making it, the one who's ripping it off, or you make it better or whatever. You one-up them, and it's like that. So.
But you don't have to bring it all the way over. But it also has something to do with the fact that you work directly with other designers who want to work with you.
Yes.
And do some bespoke.
Yes,
kinds of things.
absolutely. Sometimes they order custom stuff. They know that we can do it, that it's fast to get, that it's made in New York. They like that. And you have to push yourself as being able to do that and speak to that. And they like working locally, sure. And New York is an awesome market. It's a crazy market. There is an enormous amount of activity in New York that you can plug into and access, New York and Los Angeles both, and everywhere in between really, but those two cities really generate a lot of work for us. And so yeah, people want to work with you for sure, because they want to support the local economy. And we source, like I said, we source all our stuff locally. We source it all in the States. There's only a few parts that we have to get from overseas. We used to buy Italian parts, some Italian sockets, and now there's some Taiwanese LED stuff that we have to do. But sourcing some things in the States is hard anymore because the manufacturers have all gone offshore. So it's tough. Anyway.
Another question?
I think that there are probably a lot of people that might look at your artwork, and I think a lot of people have trouble understanding art that isn't just like a painting on a wall, that you might say.
Yes.
What would you say to somebody like that doesn't
Well,
really get
paintings
what
are-
you're going after?
Paintings on the wall are fine. I like paintings on the wall.
I just mean that some people, especially with, I feel like there's a stigma with modern art for a lot of people that aren't so involved in the community, like involved in the artist community. That
I think there's something out there for everyone. I think there's lots of, people are making all kinds of things, that. And there's something for everyone out there. You can find whatever you need. I don't have another thought about that. Do you? You know what I mean?
sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got you.
I don't know. I think, people might have problems with it. Yeah. For sure. There's no problem. Do you have a problem with that? Yeah. Any more questions?
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you.